the Baen Free Radio Hour.
Hello and welcome to the Baen Free Radio Hour. Today, Jeremy Comeaux interviews editors David Afsharirad and Mark Finn, as well as a lineup of some of the amazing authors of our latest Baen anthology, Swords Larceny. These authors include Wen Spencer, Tim Akers, Ailey Martinez, Bill Willingham, Stephen Aryan, Tracy S. Morris, and Edward M. Erdelac. And later, we continue with the serialization of One Jump Ahead by Mark Van Name, Part 28.
Welcome everyone to another episode. I am your host, Jeremy Comeaux. That is enough about me. Let's talk about why we really came here, and it's to talk to this lovely group of people. So let's get started, and let's start with the editors first. Mark, if you would, please introduce yourself and promote anything you want to promote.
Sure. My name is Mark Finn, and I am a writer and an editor, and I can be found on the North Texas Apocalypse Bunker.com site where I will blog occasionally, and the Substack, ntab.substack.com, where I send something out every week.
All right. And Mark, you have a very interesting bio, or at least I thought it was interesting, about the Robert E. Howard aficionado.
Yes, if I'm known for anything in certain circles, I am known as the guy in the room that knows more about Robert E. Howard than the rest of you. So, yes, the book I wrote was Blood and Thunder, which was the biography of Howard that was written during his centennial in 2006, and it was nominated for a World Fantasy Award, and it's now in its second edition, and you can find it at the REH Foundation Press website. So
awesome. And David, you're up.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. It's fun to be back on the Baen Free Radio Hour. If you've listened to this for a while, you're probably either annoyed to be hearing and seeing me again, or maybe you're like, oh, I remember that guy, like a cameo for when Don Knotts left Andy Griffith's show, but then came back for an episode or something. Anyway, so for many years I worked at Baen, and I'm now over at ARK Press, ARK Press, and we're doing our thing over there. Me and Tony Daniel and DJ Butler, hoping to be putting out some great books here. Really starting next year. And I co-edited this with Mark. This was a project that we started before I left Baen, and I'm excited to be back here talking about it with everybody. This was a lot of fun, and a great kind of cap to my time at Baen to work on this. So.
It's awesome. Yeah, David used to be my old boss, so welcome back, David. So before we introduce the rest of you, how did this anthology, how did the idea for this, Swords and Larceny anthology come about?
I'm going to jump, and then I'm going to give it to Mark real quick, because my part was less involved in the initial things, which is that Mark came over to me at Armadillo Con, where many of us will be here in a couple weeks, and we're going to be doing a panel about this and a signing. That's like, what is it, September, let me see.
Well, it's the day that this drops. The day that you watch this, we'll be having fun at the convention.
Okay, great. So if you're there, come by and see us. But he came up to me in one of the ways that you do, hanging out at the bar at the convention, and said, like, I got an idea. You think it would be something Baen might be interested in? And like, he basically, we didn't have the title yet, but he said, it's Fantasy Heist. And I said, yes. So
yes, please.
that was how I got involved with this. Mark probably has a more involved origin story, which I will now let him tell. So
it just goes back to something that I've been working on in various different creative outlets for, actually a couple of decades now. The idea of initially trying to gamify the process of running a heist or a caper for, say, a role-playing game or something like that. And over the years, that's taken different forms and different shapes. And along the way, heist movies started coming out again, and they became it became more of a subgenre than it, I think, has ever been. The last 25 years, we've seen a lot of heist and caper movies come out that we wouldn't have otherwise. But I got to thinking about it, and the log line that I have been using for everybody is it's the Fellowship of the Ring meets Ocean's 11. You know, so that was the idea, because I don't think a heist or a caper is limited to just action or crime. I mean, any type of genre can have that in it. It's not really a genre. It's a type of story, if you think about it. And so it seemed like a real natural thing, because we had early examples of this in the 20th century, and it got to the point now where in popular culture, D&D, which is 50 years old, has had a thief/rogue character in its makeup almost from the very beginning. Not quite the very beginning, but close enough for government work. So that was the idea behind it. I thought it would be a really cool thing to do to bring some people together. And it's also a story that I wasn't seeing anywhere else. Again, that changed. But at the time, I was looking around, and there just wasn't a really good modern example of one. It was one here and one there, but it hadn't really come together. And not everybody writes a heist or caper the same way. So I thought it'd be fun to do an anthology that showcased all these different elements and put them, kind of next to one another and keep it sort of lean. So short stories are really good for that. You can kind of get to the good stuff.
All right, let's get back to the introductions, and I'm going to go as I see you on my screen. So we're going to go across the pond to Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen Aryan. I write epic fantasy and historical fantasy. My last novel came out in May this year, The Sorrow of the Sea, which wrapped up a historical fantasy series set in 1260, 13th century Persia. And I'm mostly found on Blue Sky, or you can find me on Instagram.
Are you going to be out in the wild anywhere where people can see you?
There's World Fantasy Convention in Brighton at the end of October, start of November, which is sort of the next big convention here in the UK. So I'll be there for that, and a couple of local events around the UK. But I won't be crossing the pond from Erdelac this year, sadly. So I won't be coming over.
All right. Thank you. Bill, you're up.
Hi, I'm Bill Willingham. I used to do a comic book. I just re-released, after massive editing, this book, The Remarkable Mr. Finn. And even though...
Let me find you.
Well, you can't see it.
No, I'm trying to find you. Hold on.
You and several government agencies are trying to find me.
There you go.
All right. Remarkable Mr. Finn.
All right.
It's about a talking monkey detective. Coincidentally enough, though, it is not in any way about Mark Finn, even though he's lived his life as a monkey for as long as I've known him. How long has that been, Mark?
We're going into our third decade of friendship now. So
third decade? We're just going into our third decade of friendship?
We're into it a little bit. Yeah, 30 plus years, something like that. Mm-hmm.
So a little while.
A little while. Yes.
I've known him for 40 years. We've had our moments. I want to disagree with Mark about the origins of our anthology. About the time Things to Do in Denver when you You're Dead came out, Mark started a heist role-playing game that we all, me and various others of his gang play tested with him. And then the second time he started up years later, only a few years ago, it was a fantasy heist role-playing game, which is, I think, where it found its best footing. And we play tested that, and by play testing, meaning we tried our best to wreck Mark's plans every single week. And sometimes we succeeded.
Yes.
It was inevitable that it should be short stories or even long stories. But I'm glad to see that this finally happened.
Me too.
When Mark told me about it, he was being very polite, but I knew he was not getting off the phone with me until he invited me to participate. Anyway, that's what I've got to say.
Mark, is there any rebuttal to his story?
He's got a good rebuttal.
No, we're gonna let that stand and be entered into evidence. That's fine.
All right. Moving on. Wen, if you would introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Wen Spencer. Thank you for having me. I've got a book out dropping the same day. See if I can get that in.
I'm gonna try. Hold on. I'm trying. There we go.
See if I. There it is. And it's the book 2 of the Black Wolves of Boston, which was a fun ride. And I'll be at MauCon Halloween weekend as the guest of honor there in Denver.
All right. Where can people find you online if they're looking for you?
WenSpencer.com, and I have a Patreon under the name Wen Spencer. And I'm very active there. I also have a Facebook, but Facebook is really difficult to use, so I don't usually post there.
Yeah, I think you said your book's coming out on the 2nd.
Yep.
I think that's when Marissa's book is coming out too.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So, and for those who don't know, my wife is Marissa Wolf. She's a main author as well. That's how I got this gig. So next up, we have Tracy. Tracy, welcome.
Hi. So I'm at tracysmorse.com. I write fantasy, a lot of humor, urban fantasy, and some alternate history. I'm probably best known for contributing to the 1632 universe. My most recent story, other than this one in Swords and Larceny, in July, I was in the most recent 1632 and Beyond magazine. So
Awesome. I'll
I
try.
don't know if you're going to make this big or not.
I will. Where are you?
Learning something here.
It's always the last person.
There
We'll
we
figure it out.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
And so I wasn't actually invited into this anthology. I'm working on a heist novel of my own, and I went to Mark for some advice, and he was telling me about it, and so I just asked him. I said, "Hey, Mark, if I gave you a short story, would you consider it?" And that's how I ended up with you reprobates.
Yep.
All right. Did you say, are you going to be out in the wild anywhere where people can meet?
Yeah, I'm going. I will be at ArmadilloCon next month.
All right. Awesome. All right. Lee?
Hey, I'm A. Lee Martinez, a science fiction fantasy writer like all of us. I don't know why that is very helpful. What do I write? I'll be at ArmadilloCon too, which is probably helpful. I don't really have anything to promote. I'm on AleeMartinez.com and Blue Sky A. Lee Martinez. And I think I just got a TikTok account. I'm not sure. Writer A. Lee Martinez. I've got stuff with my agent right now, but nothing out there, so it's going to be a while. The business is slow. The most interesting thing is I'm kind of pitching a comic, which is like DuckTales meets like Tales from the Crypt, but I don't know yet. We're working on it, and that's it. Awesome. And I got invited because Mark thinks I'm cool, and that's all I needed. It's all I needed to make my life worth living.
Hey, in this world, that's all you need is at least one person to think you're cool.
That's it.
All right, Ed, you're up.
Hey, so I'm Ed Erdelac. I'm best known, I guess, for my Macabre Rider series, which is this like seated gunslinger traveling through the West looking for his master who betrayed his ancient Jewish order of astral travelers to the great old ones. This is my 17th novel I just brought out. Can you show me that maybe, or put that in
We
there?
gonna give it a shot.
Yeah, that's Chili Bean Joss. Hey, there she is. Tracy.
Trying to find you.
And Ludwig
It's
von
like
in the background.
he's always trailing. He's always trailing. But we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, my 17th novel just came out, Chili Bean Joss. It's about a Chinese ranch hand in 1880s Arizona who finds a 2,000-year-old sentient ginseng that begs him to like save him from this Tong who's using him for like sorcery and to be immortal. And he's also trying to keep it all out of the cowboy employers from learning about it and all that kind of stuff and everything. So it's kind of like a kung fu comedy, like an old Jackie Chan movie and stuff, but like with a weird West twist and everything. I've written for Star Wars. I've written some Sherlock Holmes. I did James Bond versus Cthulhu, stuff like that. You can find me at my blog, Delirium Tremens, on WordPress. If you put my name in there, if you can figure out how to spell it, you can pretty much find me anywhere online. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. I don't know how I wound up in this anthology. Well, I know Mark asked me, and I was like surprised and pleased as all hell to be asked because I love Bane and I love Mark. Mark, I love you. Thank you for inviting me and stuff. I'm a big fan of Robert E. Howard and all that, so I knew Mark from way back and stuff, and it was just a real honor to be like asked.
Just for the record, I've never cared for the man.
Well, I'll make up for that with my own love. No, and I don't. I think I'm going to be at the LA Vintage Paperback show in Pasadena or Glendale, I think, in March. That's my next appearance.
Awesome. And last but not least, Tim, if you would.
Sure. So my name is Tim Akers. I am a writer of dark epic fantasy, weird fantasy, and surreal humor. I don't know if you can see this over here. I can never get this right. Yeah, that little short thing there, that's the collected P.G. Wodehouse. I don't know what most people's parents were doing when they were children, but my father read that to me from the age of 2 all the way through high school. So Wodehousian humor mixed with Lovecraftian horror, mixed with like Tim Powers-esque weirdness. That's pretty much my gig. I got this invitation from somebody. I believe it was David, but it might have been Mark. I'm not entirely sure. It's been months, and I've written 3 books since then. I got my start writing in college, writing for White Wolf Game Studios back in the 90s. I have gone back and forth between RPG writing and novels ever since. I'm currently one of the main writers for the Malifaux game system. I also have 10 novels out, 2 that I self-published, and I just signed a 3-book deal for Lit RPGs from Athon. So I am a multi-threat. But yeah, no, I just write dark, weird stuff.
Awesome. And Tim is the only author on here that I've actually met before because I got to interview him for Bane.
Right. Yeah. Virtually, right. Oh, and so where you'll know me in the world, I am on all of the socials as Tim Akers. I am the only living, moderately famous Tim Akers. Sadly, the other one passed away a few years back. And well, no, he did. He died of the exact same cancer that my mom has, which is rare, which is very, whatever. Anyway, the point is life is strange. But I'm also a hermit, so you will not find me in the wild unless I'm at LibertyCon or a couple other conventions. And then usually I'm in like sale mode, so I'm a different person. It's a personality I put on. So that's it.
No, I'm with you. I have my extroverted personality, which is, what you see now. And then usually I'm pretty quiet. So let's go back. So starting with the anthology, how did you, whoever wants to answer, David or Mark, how did you select your authors? How long did it take from like start to finish, all that good stuff?
I'll start. That was harder than you think. I mean, as editors, you usually have coteries, if not cadres, of authors that you can go to, and then I'm sure that there's also a list of people you would like to work with in some way. That'd be great. And then there's the people you're never going to touch. And so David and I each had a list of people we've worked with and like to work with. And so it was a matter of going through them and going, can they do fantasy and can they do like a crime caper sort of a thing? At least that's for me what I was thinking along the lines of like, who do I know that can pull off something picaresque or just moderately clever and also deliver the goods with fantasy. So that was my process when I was going through like who we should get. And then of course there was the other consideration. We had to think in terms of, filthy lucre. So we had to think about people who were enough of a name that we could maybe massage some stuff around. And that was difficult, but it was also kind of fun to sort of, like figure that out. I know a couple of the people that I asked were like, oh yeah, I think I can, and so that was some of that, which was fun. David, anything you want to add or change to that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's right. I think, at the time I was working for Bain. And so, that's how Wen was gracious enough when I asked her to agree. And Tim was a Bain author. And so, I kind of approached it from that angle of who might be in the Bain orbit that right. We could, it is, it's also about people and people who you think are good and who you like and want to work with. There's, we got a lot of people on here. There's only a handful, I think, that aren't. Adrian Simmons, let's see, Jim Zub, John Hawking, James, I don't know how to say his name, James Ing, how do you say it? I've never heard it. I've only
it's Ing like Ingalls.
Okay. And then Christopher Rocchio. So those are the other contributors who aren't here today. I think Mark nailed it. It's just sort of picking people who you like and think might be willing to do it. And one, not to bring it down, but I think we should honor him, is the book's dedicated to Howard Andrew Jones.
Yeah.
Who wrote the great, at the time of his passing, was just finished up the now I'm embarrassingly blanking Hanuvar novels for Bain, and Mark had known him from Howard, Robert E. Howard world, and all this. And originally he was going to write a story for us, and if you don't know, very sadly, cancer and passed away. So Mark said, I think we should dedicate to him, and I wholeheartedly agreed. And so he would have been a person who would have been in here and hopefully would have been here talking with us. So I just wanted to kind of mention that because it was definitely, we really felt that loss as we were so excited to get a story from him, and as we're putting this together. So
and Howard would have been perfect for it too. He all of his Sword and Sorcery and the Hanuvar stuff was he just had the right tone and temperament, and when I explained it to him, he didn't require any additional oh, what's that like? He was like, gotcha. We went straight to Fritz Leiber and kind of played around with everything. He was like, yeah, I'm on the road. Let me as soon as I get back from Gen Con, I'll reconnect and we'll chat. And unfortunately, he started feeling bad at Gen Con, and so it, if that happened really quick, and he went downhill. I mean, we were all just really shocked. It was just terrible, But I feel like this is cheesy, but I feel like the dedication was probably, I don't know that it was enough, but I don't think I would have gotten to some of the decisions that we made without Howard and so forth. So I'm grateful that we got to honor him in that little way.
No, and so from start to finish, how long did it take to put this thing together?
From the moment we were talking about it?
Yeah.
Oh, let's call it 4 years, maybe. Wow. Something like that. 4, maybe 5. No, it was 4 years. 2021. I'll just fix that date. That's ArmadilloCon 2021 was when we first had this conversation, and and David and I have been talking for a while anyways about projects and stuff and things, and we found we had similar sensibilities. And so for me, I was like, I don't have anything right now, but I'm going to absolutely come to you if I have something. And he was like, I'll keep you in mind. And so that was really how we got together on that. And, I think any creative process where you have a group of people involved, a lot of times it's hurry up and wait. And so that was some of it. It took a while to sort of get through the various steps needed to get the okay. And then once we got the okay, it was like, how soon can you have it done?
Right. Yeah. I think that's so many things. I mean, everyone on here is a writer. I mean, everyone's process is different, but it is sort of, in my experience, a slow accumulation. You think of it in the back of your mind, a little idea here, a little idea there, you put it, and then for whatever reason, suddenly that's the project that grabs you, and then it ends up going pretty quick. And that was kind of the experience on this is, really slow. Yeah, maybe, and we should think about that, and then for whatever reason, we're just like, let's do this, and then when we started actually officially asking people, I mean, it's probably a year or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, I am usually not, and I said this before we started recording, I'm usually not a big fan of anthologies, but this one has changed my mind.
All right.
Outstanding.
This one was fun. I found myself wanting to go back and read it, because a lot of times when there's a difference between stuff that you choose to read and stuff that you have to read to do an interview. It's like it becomes homework because you have to do it, right? And but luckily, most of the books that I read from Baen, it doesn't stay like that. I enjoy it, and this one really got me. I was looking forward to going back and reading each story, even starting with the intro, because you got me thinking about bad guys that I like. I think you mentioned The Sopranos and somebody where they're the bad guys, but we're rooting for them. And what it made me think of was that, it's like the bad guy that is like, oh, I hope he gets away with it, but he's doing some bad guy stuff,
Yep.
But no, even, you got me from there, and I enjoyed every story, and I'm hoping they will turn into something else eventually, but I'll save that question for later. This is the end of the gushing, but I really enjoyed it. I had fun. Y'all are all very.
Please go on.
No, it's going to get gross soon.
There's no limit to how hungry we are for approval of all types. Please.
I told you just got to have one person that thinks you're cool.
No, I need more. I need as many as I can get. I'm not a one person. No, that's worthless to me. I need millions, please.
Yeah, I had a good time reading this, and so I usually facetiously ask, what was your favorite story? Because I know you're not supposed to answer that question. But I mean, were there some characters that you had a good time with? And I'll let everybody answer this. What was your favorite part about this anthology? Whether it was your own story or somebody else's stories, the process, whatever it was. And we'll start with the editors.
Well, I'm going to say I like Lee's story since he seems so desperate for approval.
Oh, thank you. Another day I can continue on. That's all I need. You know what? I don't even need to be sincere. Thank you so much.
No, I mean, you. What are you gonna say? I think they were great. We were, like Mark said, I think we got a wide variety that different stories highlighted different sort of aspects of what the heist story is. Some had all the elements, some but it's a short story, right? And so some didn't have maybe maybe we didn't see the team assemble, but we got the great reversal at the end or whatever it would be. Since he's not here, Adrian Simmons did a great one that was kind of all about building the team. You do see some, it doesn't just end with like a cliffhanger, right? But like the focus of it, I should say, was about building the team and stuff like that. Again, since he's not here to talk about his own thing, I really, Christopher Rocchio is a good friend and of course has been on the podcast many times. And he did a story which is in his big thing is the Sun Eater universe that's wrapping up. This story is in a different thing called Adaman. And I think this was maybe the first thing he ever wrote in it. I could be wrong about that. But I read the Sun Eater. And he said, I'm going to do this different thing, this fantasy idea I've got. And it was cool to see, all he had written up to that point was Sun Eater in-universe stuff, right? Either from the main series or short stories related to it. So it was really neat to see your friend and guy whose work you admire, like for the first time try something. I mean, it's still in the overall genre. He's not trying like, harem romance or something, but so that was cool to read that story as well. So but I love all my children equally. Thank you.
We love you too, Dad.
Right.
So everybody has to the editors have to end their statements that way.
What a cop-out.
All right, Mark, what was your favorite thing about doing this anthology?
David brought up the notion that different stories hit different parts of the palette, right? And that was, I think that's the secret sauce for this particular anthology, is that they don't all read the same way or do the same thing. And in fact, I don't think there's more than one or than two or three stories that maybe start plot story-wise in the same place. They all kind of come from different directions, which I loved. James's story was a later edition, and it was one of those like, why didn't I think of that sort of a deals, which I really enjoyed. But I gotta say, my favorite story was probably mine. I mean, is that weird? I'm kidding. It wasn't mine. My favorite story. Don't make me choose, really.
No, you don't have to choose. That was being confused. I was just saying about the process.
I do like that everybody came from different directions, and everybody's flavor of fantasy was a little different, and the tone was different for each one. So it really, as a mixtape, I think is a really good pulling you through the various pieces and parts. So that's what I really liked. I liked that we all, I gave everybody the same direction, and we all came back with these very different things, So that was the coolest part of it for me.
Yeah, I can concur with that, because you could tell you knew what the theme was, but because you said it at the beginning, but you knew what the theme was, but to your point, all these stories were very different, very unique. Some were darker than others, some were funnier than others, and so they all kind of had their own personality, and I really enjoyed that, and was not disappointed by any of them. And I know I'm supposed to say that, but I really mean it. So we're gonna go on, since you guys are not the editors, and I don't know if you read everybody else's stories. Just kind of tell me what your favorite part of being a part of this project was, and is it something is it something that you normally do? Is it outside of your normal genre or anything like that? And Ed, I'm gonna pick on you first.
I did an Arthurian fantasy novel, but as far as like swords and sorcery and stuff, like I don't really get a chance to do that very often. So I was excited to just have that opportunity to do that. I also wanted to. I haven't read the anthology yet because I haven't got my copy like Tracy did. But I loved. My favorite part of it personally was kind of. There's this old adage, and I'm glad Mark brought up like D&D and role playing, all that stuff and everything, because there's this old advice that writers get to not put your D&D characters in a story. And this is the second time this D&D characters has been published now and everything. Like sold this guy twice now in two different forums. This was this Mogarth character, this half orc, is the guy that the character that I played that brought me back into D&D after like a 20 year like hiatus, you know. I started playing Adventurers League or something in a local game shop, and I came up with this half orc character and everything, and like as this thief who's like I really wanted to explore though the racial prejudice a character like that would would come across and everything, and the fact that he's traveling with this little goblin. Everybody hates goblins, and it's set in a world what's got me excited is this world is like a Tolkien world where the good and evil has already, like Sauron's already fallen. The evil has already been defeated, and what happens to all the orcs and stuff? They're all kind of displaced and wandering the kingdoms and everything, and the kingdoms are all kind of like I liken it to Reconstruction era, like American South and stuff and everything, and so these guys are just kind of like sell swords, and this guy's the lowest of the low. He doesn't like, orcs don't like him, humans don't like him, and he's traveling with a goblin, and I just like the idea of this like bottom of the barrel character from a high fantasy setting and just following him around and stuff. And that's what got me excited about writing it. Again, I love revisiting this character, and I love the opportunity to have another kind of like roguish adventure with this character and bring him back and stuff. So that was really cool.
Good.
It's funny you mentioned D&D. We recently, me and my wife and some of our friends started a D&D game within the last year, and I don't play. It's too much like homework for me, but I do enjoy going to the games. I have a few drinks, and I just talk mounds of trash while they're playing their game, and that's fun for me. And so I also have fun with D&D, just not the same way you guys do. All right, Stephen, you're up.
So I seem to have a problem that I don't seem to be able to write short stories. I always think, yeah, that's a good idea. Then I start writing it, and suddenly it's 40,000 words, and that novella was supposed to be a short story, and I'm like, I don't seem to know what I'm doing. I can't seem to do it. So I haven't written many short stories, honestly. It just seems to be a problem. So getting some direction is always good, because someone just said, write as a 2,000 word short story. Like, yeah, that's too much. Like, so when you go bowling, you get the things down the lanes. I need that when I'm writing a short story. I need something, otherwise the ball is going off, and I'm going to hit someone's pins and in the lane, and it's going to be messy, and there'll be blood and carnage, and start with a short story or a novel in my case. I like working with Mark and David. It was really good getting feedback from them. We kind of played around with the structure of the story a bit. I pitched one idea, and that's the one we went with, but then we kind of played around with it a bit more. We kept adding bits, and it changed shape. And it was nice to kind of to build a heist. I hadn't really done something like this before either. So it was really nice. I was thinking of things like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you've got someone who's trying to do better to improve their life. And I was thinking also oddly about sort of Lord of the Rings. You've got these four relatives, young men trying to go out and have an adventure. And those two kind of things kind of merged in my brain. I ended up with someone that's the four guys that are always trying to get ahead. They're always to find that one score that'll just put them over the line, and it'll transform their lives. And one of them comes up with yet another harebrained scheme that's going to change their lives. And chaos ensues in this story, and they go on an adventure, and it doesn't end well. Let's just say that things go wrong, as it should be.
Steve, remind me some of your characters so I can picture the story.
Right, so you got the two brothers who are going, and they're cousins, and they find a treasure map at the start of the story, yes. The Unworthy, it's called, and they end up going into a swamp because that's where you would hide treasure. Surely makes total sense.
Yeah,
maybe
that was good. All right, and so one other question for you: being the only out-of-country person in the anthology, how did you end up in this?
So I know Christopher Rocchio. We've been sort of chatting online for a few years, and through Christopher, I was introduced to David, and said, "Have you got any ideas for something like this?" And so I went away and thought about it, and yeah. So my copies haven't arrived, so I haven't read it either. So it'll take a bit longer to cross the pond before I get my copy.
Well, we're gonna get on the Bane. Jason's in trouble. I'm just kidding. You're not in trouble, Jason. But they are. He did ask for all your addresses, and I think we got them to him. So they should be.
Right.
The check is in the mail, or in this case, the anthology is in the mail. So
it might literally be downstairs. I didn't mean to put you guys on blast.
No, it's fine. Well, it's not technically out.
I haven't checked the mail.
Yeah.
I got mine today. I swear, I did. So it exists.
Yeah, you'll probably have it by the time this airs. All right, Bill, you are up.
All right. First, I apologize because my connection is very spotty. My connection with technology is always very spotty. So I have kind of an inkling of what we're talking about here. But I'll press on. The idea for the story, once Mark very kindly invited me to participate, saying, "Bill, you're beloved to me. It couldn't happen without you." Or I may be paraphrasing, but something along those lines. But I love caper flicks, and I love characters like Zorro and Green Hornet and the Scarlet Pimpernel, who are known villains, but secretly heroes. So why not just turn that around to someone who's in the medieval era, a known hero who's secretly maybe a little less. And I made myself adhere to my personal caper story rule, which is, yes, you should have a night once, and once only. You can get away with everything we've told you so far is a lie, and here's the truth, which is the essence of the caper twist. But no further than that. I hate movies and stories where everything we've told you so far is, oops, all of that's a lie, here's the truth. And sometimes I'll go 3 and 4 levels deep into that until inevitably the reader or me gets to the point where, well, I don't believe anything you tell me now. This entire story was a waste of my time because you have no authority. So you believe a good caper flick should be a confession to the reader. But if your confession is also false, then you've wasted the cop's time, and it's not a very good show, is it? So anyway, that was the idea behind what I wanted to do. Was that anything like what your question was? Because, like I say, I'm only hearing little bits of the conversation.
Remarkably prescient.
Yeah, I did hear that at some point, Mark Finn said that everyone that participated in Swords and Larceny had to be, what was it? Modestly clever, not even quite that good. It's like, I'm going to use it a blurb on all my books from now on. Mark Finn says, I am slightly
clever adjacent.
Clever, yeah, I think is a great blurb. So thank you.
Yeah.
Finally, an anthology that aims right for the middle.
approaching adequacy.
Wen, you're up.
Okay. I had gone to Dragon Con last year and met Marissa, your wife, and Melissa and Kelsey. And we banded together and talked about Pern.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way home, I was coming up with what I would do with, Dragon Rider, blah, 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 blah. And I was actually kind of building this world, and I get the email of, can you write something for this? And I'm like, I've got this cool idea. I'll take this stuff that I've been working on, and I'll do a caper. And then they said it's 8,000 words, and I was like, I'm not sure if I can write that short. So that was a challenge to me to keep it compact and keep it short, because normally I wrote closer to 200,000. So, this whole keep it short was a bit of a challenge. But I really enjoyed the whole process of, meeting everybody at the con and getting the creative juices going, and then immediately having an outlet for it. I had fun with it.
That's awesome. I really enjoyed your story. It was good. And I'm hoping for all of these that I get to see these characters again, but I'll ask that question in a little bit. So Lee, you're up.
Yeah. The first version I was working on of the short story was the rule about like you don't tell the plan unless the plan's going to go wrong. So I was working on a version of that. I didn't like it, and I was about to go like, I can't do this. I can't figure this out. But then I came up with the idea of Orpheus, like sort of a heist where you're stealing somebody from the underworld. But I was also like, yeah, but I love goblins, and I love goblins. My version of goblins are always suicidally optimistic. I just love that about, it's like in fantasy, in classic D&D or all those settings, there's like 7 goblins that are like, oh, they've slaughtered everybody. We can take these guys. We got him. It's like being a guy who works for the Joker. You expect, oh, I can take the Batman. I got it. I can take this. So I love that idea. And and I thought, so, suicidally optimistic as they journey into the underworld and deal with these problems. And they're doing basically a heist to try to get something out of the underworld. And then from there, the structure of kind of revealing information of when it's revealed, kind of like flashbacks and all this stuff, was a lot of fun. And also, I just love like sort of the classic problems of what you might have in the underworld and how goblins would deal with them. That was really the main thing, and it was just that's what kind of drove me to do it. Was there this fun thing, and of course, there's the swerve at the end where what they're going for is not what you think. But it was just basically like, what if a bunch of suicidally optimistic goblins ran in and were just like, well, let's see if we can get this thing. And so that was a big part of the fun for me.
Well, I can tell you had fun writing that one, because that story was fun for me too. I enjoyed just the laissez-faire attitude.
Yeah, we got a plan. It's not going to work, but we'll figure it out. Or we won't. But we're goblins. It's okay.
Yeah, that was good. All right. And Tracy.
Well, so when part of how I like to write my process, I take everything in around me, and it's like Legos dumped in a bin. And then when you're writing a story, it's like, well, let's take the blue one and the green one and the red one and stick them together and see what kind of story we end up with. And so I've been doing a lot of research on Louis the 14th and Versailles and all his mistresses, and that seemed like a really great setting. And so I did that, and then I found a couple of historic characters who I could sort of use as a starting point to create my characters. And so, like, one of the main characters is an actress named Julie. That's based on Julie Dobney, who was she was an actress during that time period, and she's notorious for burning down a convent and kidnapping one of the nuns. And so she was a great starting point for one of my characters. And so all my characters are based on actual historical people. And then so it's like they're my little Barbies. I'm going to make them do things now. And so if I'm telling a story, you know, I not too long before seen the Dungeons and Dragons heist movie, and the thing that really intrigued me about that was, you know, you take a straightforward heist and then you start throwing in complications. And so I started thinking about this, you know, this is a very straightforward get in, steal the thing, get out. And it's like, how can we make this more complicated? And so I started throwing complications, and the more complications I got, the more I started cackling. And so there's a scene where my one of my characters gets locked in a indoor toilet, basically, and there's actually one of those in the king's bedroom in Versailles. And I found that, I'm like, yes, that's my thing. He's getting locked in there. And I was at this writer's retreat, and I'm sitting on a couch working on this, and I'm cackling, and I'm holding my notebook to myself, and I'm kicking the front of the couch with the backs of my heels. And people are looking at me like, you're having fun with this. I'm like, I'm having a great time with this. And I know when I'm having that much fun, somebody's going to enjoy reading it.
Yep.
And so that was the best.
Yeah, and that's why I asked the question. Oh, who'd I lose?
Bill.
Oh, he might. Hopefully, he'll pop back in. So that's why I asked the question, because I had fun reading all of these stories, and I said they had to have fun writing these things, just coming up with this stuff, and making it so that I'm rooting for the bad guy or pseudo bad guy. So yeah, I'm glad you said that. So last again but not least, Tim, what did you enjoy about the process?
This is usually the opposite of how it works for me, because the last name Akers, I'm usually stuck in the front. So this is great. So I am fundamentally a world builder. That comes from my gaming background, and also the fact I have the same age as Brandon Sanderson. So if you have Brandon as a client, it kind of, you start to make all of your other authors try to be Brandon, kind of. So I do a lot of like magic system world building. And whenever I get invited to anthologies, I always make the mistake of creating an entire world for that one story, which is a waste of time, but it's what I enjoy doing. Fortunately, I had just been invited to a different anthology called Reign of Dragons, which was put forward by Jasmine Young and has a bunch of great indie authors, Andy Pelican and others in it. And so I had already done all of that work. I had already created the magic system in the world that was going to be used for that. And I just used the same world setting for this system. And it's an interesting take on shapeshifting, where you've got, again, my main fantasy series is called Wraithbound, and it's all about binding a ghost to your soul. But in this case, you're able to bind different mythic creatures to yourself. And so the main character is the guy who is inadvertently bound to an angel. He's an unwilling paladin, basically, where he was working a scam at a party, and an angel walks in and chooses him as her champion, and it's the last thing in the world he wants. He's a thief and he's basically the stainless steel rat, and so he's sort of bound to this from that point on. And when you're going to do a heist with somebody like that, like, what are you going to steal? And the answer is obviously you're going to steal a god, because what else are you going to steal? So it's actually a mix of like military fantasy and sort of the kind of Guns of Navarone sort of, not really a heist, but more of a special ops mission kind of thing, but being run by a guy who is utterly the wrong choice for the job, but he's also the only guy who can get it done, which is, it's what you do. You figure out, the most juxtaposition possible, and then you dump it on there. I have the same problem everybody else here does. I can't write short. I think I ended up at like 12,005. So I just can't produce short fiction particularly, but it's a lot of fun to write. I enjoy that world. I've got obviously the other anthology, and I've got a novel called The Last Dragon Knight, about a guy who is both a dragon and a crow. I read a book that recently won a Hugo that was all about crows, and I didn't hate that book, but I was super unimpressed by it, and I often function out of spite, and that's how I ended up writing this whole series about crows, because I'm like, if you have an entire fantasy novel that is based on crows and crow magic, and I'm like, meh, I'm going to vindictively write a book that I would actually enjoy in that situation. So that's the story.
And now, as promised, one jump ahead. John Moore is a nanotech-enhanced soldier of fortune. Lobo is an AI, a living weapons and intelligence platform of enormous destructive potential. Two very dangerous wolves in a galaxy of deadly corporate and paramilitary predators. But Moore has grown weary of the killing, and just once he'd like to finish a job without leaving a trail of blood behind him. Not going to happen. Not on a pristine planet called Macon, where two gigantic corporations vie for control of the local jump gate and access to the riches of an undeveloped world. Dealing with a kidnapping and extortion scheme is only the beginning for Moore and Lobo as they work to stay one jump ahead.
If someone like Osterlad got his hands on me and brought in enough scientists, they'd realize the agro experiments hadn't ended in failure, and then turn me into a lab animal until they figured out how to make more people like me. I was sure I wouldn't survive the process. You guys were never going to honor the deal, I said. True enough. The price you were paying was more than the market value of the control unit, but a Predator-class assault vehicle with a fully operational complement of weapons is worth many times the price of those controls. We are in business to make a profit, after all. I can still pay, I said. I'd planned to leave the money. I had, though I knew he would never believe it. You take my payment, I take the control unit, and we finish the deal, just as planned. You make a large profit, everyone wins. Johns leaned against the table and laughed. We're not negotiating. We're waiting for the gas to wear off so the security staff can take charge of you. That probably means I'll be stuck with you for another few hours, eh? I nodded. When the staff wakes up, we'll keep the control unit, interrogate you, and take all your money. In a day or two, a company salvage ship will come through the gate and retrieve the PCAV. He went back to the desk and sat, his gun still pointed in my direction, but his attention no longer solely on me. I definitely should get a hefty bonus out of this. When the guards rolled me over, Johns would see the healed wound. As long as his interrogation team didn't hit me with too many drugs at once, I could probably withstand at least the first few rounds of questioning. But that would only make them more curious. My stomach felt like I had broken in two as I realized I had no options. Killing in combat is bad enough, but at least the stakes are clear and you enter the field knowing what's coming. Killing like this chips away at you. One of the reasons I've kept to myself for so long, one of the reasons I now had to admit to myself that I've never felt I could afford to stay anywhere for too long or get too close to anyone. I stuck the tip of my index finger into the small amount of blood still lingering around the edges of the nearly healed hole in my leg, rubbed the blood on my fingertip into the pool of blood on the floor under me, and gave the nanomachines instructions. I looked at Johns and said, You're wrong, you know. About what? The blood turned black and rose into a small cloud hovering just above the floor. I kept talking, so he continued to look at me and nod at the slowly moving nano cloud. I'm not soft, I said. I'm just torn. Part of me needs the action, but most of me despises the cost. The cloud was under his chair, almost to the wall, and picking up speed. Then we're doing you a favor, he said, because we're deciding for you. You're out of it now. The cloud floated up the wall until it was higher than John's, then spread out over him and gently fell onto him, a barely visible nano-dew coating his hair, ears, and clothes. "No," I said. "I'm not." Johns reached to scratch his ear, then dropped the gun and grabbed his head with both hands. "What's happening?" he asked. I stood and knocked the gun out of his reach. "It'll be over soon. I'm sorry." Johns struggled to stay upright as drops of blood dripped from his ears and eyes. "This won't change anything," he said. "Osterlad wants the PCAV and the bounty on you." His body fell forward onto the desk. "He won't stop." "What bounty?" I said. I grabbed his shoulders, but he was gone, his head vanishing into an ever-darkening and growing cloud that wouldn't stop until it had consumed his entire body. I saw no point in leaving any evidence. Great. Someone had put a bounty on me, and the biggest arms dealer in the region was after it? I'd wanted a vacation. Instead, I was in a fight, and I didn't know who my opponent was. I turned away, grabbed the pack, and headed out of the room. Outside, I called Lobo on the wrist unit and sat down to wait for him, trying to lose myself in the stars that now promised no new magic, only more of the same trouble I'd never wanted and always seemed to find. "I have firewalled the new unit," Lobo said. "Run every simulation I possess, and it comes up clean. I am ready to take it live. You are my owner, so I need your permission to do so." We were in low orbit above Osterlad's mansion, with at least half an hour still to go before the people in the house should wake up. "Do it," I said. A few seconds later, weapons displays flashed to life across the gunnery console where I sat. "Everything's operational," he said. I appeared to be completely functional again. "We need to take out the shuttles to buy ourselves a bit more time, so let's use them for a pulse check. Show me video." "What about the house?" I considered wiping it, sending a message to Osterlad, showing him what it would cost to mess with me, but I knew he'd never listen. The only ones who would pay were the guards and the staff in the house. People who were doing their jobs, nothing more, their lives of no importance to him. "Leave it alone," I said. There were no witnesses. Another display window opened in front of me. On it, 2 shuttles sat side by side on a pad. A few seconds later, they burst in an explosion I could watch but not hear. "Pulse weapons check," Lobo said. "I'm good to go." The gunnery displays winked out. "Thank you." "You're welcome." I stood and headed for my bunk. If Osterlad demanded daily courier updates, we were in trouble no matter what. Even with a bounty, however, the value of getting Lobo and me could not be large enough to make us a major transaction for him, so he shouldn't expect an update until the 2-week window was over. We had to get him before then. "I'm going to rest. Take us to the jump station. Jump at least 5 times and file different destination schedules each time." "Where do you want to go?" Lobo asked. "Back to Landkin," I said, "as quickly as we safely can. Those other jumps will make it hard for anyone who might be watching to trace us. And for the last jump, I want to book us as freight on a carrier heading to the other side of the planet." "Not that you seem to feel it's my business," Lobo said with a petulance in his voice that scratched at my nerves like a live current flowing under my skin. "But generally, my teams have kept me up to date on their plans. Why Landkin? Why—" I cut him off. The image of John's dissolving head would not leave me. My own head throbbed, and my stomach churned, both paying the price of dealing with the adrenaline dregs coursing through me and the emotional hangover of conflict. Still, Lobo was right. We were a team, and he deserved to know such plan as I had. "We're going to see Osterlad," I said. "We're going to find out who put the bounty on me, get them to retract it, and convince Osterlad to leave us alone." I stretched out on my bunk. Yeah, that's the plan, I thought. After I slept, I'd have to figure out how to make it work.
This has been the Bane Free Radio Hour. Thanks for joining us at the heart of science fiction. Join us next week as we bring you more of the interview with the editors and authors of our outstanding new anthology, Swords and Larceny. And later, we continue with part 29 of One Jump Ahead by Mark Van Name. Score by Ruth Judkowitz.